And thank you very much for waiting while we made sure that our system worked so we can provide a good training for everyone for the school budgets. My name is Kelly Langley. I'm Supervisor of Local Government Finance, and today with me I have our budget analysts. I'm going to introduce them individually and then let you know which counties each one oversees. And then if that's your county, you'll know who you can communicate with if you have any questions. So anyway, thank you very much for joining our training today. Kelly Grauman is going to be doing the majority of this training today. Kelly is the budget analyst responsible for Churchill, Clark, and Washoe County. Then I have Carrie Gransberry. Carrie is responsible for Elko, Esmeralda, Humboldt, Lander, and Mineral. Evelyn Berrigan, hopefully you guys can see everyone. Evelyn is budget analyst for Lyon County, Nye County, Story, White Pine, and the multi-districts. Andy Thorpe is with us also today, and she is the budget analyst for Carson City, Douglas, Eureka, Lincoln, and Pershing. Hopefully today we'll be able to go through this budget training and answer any questions that you might have when you're preparing your budget for the 24-25 budget year. The budget presentation was sent out to you along with this invitation, so you have that to refer back to. And if you view the notes, you'll be able to see the majority of what is being said as well. So if there's something that we say during this, it should be presented in the notes as well. After the training today, we will have this training available on our website. And we'll share the PowerPoint training at that time. So that should be later today. We did have problems with the non-school one, so that one's not out there yet, but the school one should be out there today. Please remember, if you have any questions, you're always welcome to call your budget analyst. We do have flexible work schedules going on, and they also work remotely on specific days, which vary between the various budget analysts. So know that if you call and leave them a message, probably the best way to communicate is an email, and then they're pretty quick at responding to you. Let me turn the presentation over at this time to Kelly Grauman.
Thank you. During when you're looking at the slides, pay close attention to the red font on the slides. Those are a lot of notes that will help you with your budget. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And feel free to stop me at any time during the presentation.
And frequently during this presentation, Kelly will ask specifically if there are any questions. But it's good if you have a question on a specific slide, let's address it while that slide is up on the screen for everyone's benefit.
Yes. So the general instructions and some things that you need for your budget prep is your audit, the final revenue projection publication that comes out March 15th, the pro forma that comes out March 25th, and the PCFP model that you receive from the Department of Education. And so on this, please send 2 single-sided copies. Do not have them double-sided. It's really hard for us to look at things when they're double-sided. There's 2 types of funds. There's the government funds and there's proprietary funds. And in the government funds, there's usually the general, special revenue, capital projects, expendable trust, and debt service. So just I can't tell you how important it is to please send a single-sided copies. And because we keep one and we send one to LCB. And if there's put an explanation if is required to be submitted for a budgeted ending fund balance of less than 4%, and give us an explanation why and what is your plan to increase your ending fund balance. So this, each budget must be accompanied by an index listing the page number and description of each page in the budget. The budget document must be arranged in the following order, as you can see on that slide. And we checked, and this is important, we checked to see that the budget has the same exact funds as the audit. And it is very, very helpful if they also have the same name. This first is Schedule 1. It's the transmittal page. And you can insert your letterhead. And your entity, your name should be recorded in the first paragraph. In paragraph 2, record only the number of funds that require funding from state education fund and the debt service fund, no other funds, and the total dollar amount of those revenues. And this number must agree with the total column 4 and 5 of such funds on Schedule AA, or if you're using the Schedule AA modified. Sorry, we've got a little technical error. No. In paragraphs,
Ask if everyone can see this.
can everybody see this?
If you can just put a comment in chat or raise your hand if you can't.
Cannot see it.
One's waiting in the lobby, Carrie.
Okay. Should be the same number. I'll try to verify. Okay. Sorry. Try to redirect that. Sorry, a little technical error. On paragraph 4, the declaration of the total, this is where the expenditures of the governmental fund types must agree with the totals of columns 2 through 4 for such funds on Schedule AA1 and AA1 modified. This amount does not include transfers, contingencies, and the ending fund balances. Do not add those in. Also on paragraph 4, the total expenses of all proprietary funds will go there, and they will agree with the total of columns 2 through 4 on Schedule AA1 and AA1 modified. And this is the bottom half of that schedule. And this talks about the tentative budget must be signed by the person who is assigned the responsibility for budget preparation. The board members do not need to sign the tentative budget unless it's your board's policy to do so. And I have also added a place for a phone number in case we need to contact you for any reason. And that's really important. So the NRS 354.596.4 requires a public hearing of the tentative budget to be held not sooner than the 3rd Monday in May and not later than the last day in May. And so for this year, it's between May 20th and May 31st. So, and that's important. And it's important that you have that information on this page. If that's left blank, expect a phone call from your analyst. That is probably one of the first things that we check when we check the budget. And so the date, time, and place of the public hearing must be recorded there. And so it has to have the date, the time, and place of the public hearing. The tentative budget has been prepared in such detail and appropriate schedules as prescribed by the Department of Taxation, and the places where copies of the tentative budget are on file and available for public inspection. And this is important, especially now with newspapers being scarce. If you cannot post in your local paper because of timing, you can use major newspapers like the Reno Gazette Journal or the Las Vegas Review Journal. It's also possible to post in 3 different places. Examples: libraries, post office, city offices, county offices, and schools. In addition to the certification signature for the final budget, must be approved and signed by the majority of all members of the governing body. And we get this question all the time. Majority is half plus 1. Is there any questions on the Schedule 1?
Again, you're welcome to put any questions out there in chat and we can address them at that time.
Yes. Schedule B1, and this is a lot of our statistical information comes from. But as we go down there, section A, that's the assessed valuation, excluding net proceeds of minerals. This figure is taken from column 2 of the final assessed value by county. Page A1 on the March 15th final local government revenue projections publication. That's where you can get that information. Line B1 is the net proceeds of minerals. This figure is taken from column 3, same publication. Line B2, this is tax from net proceeds unavailable for appropriation for FY 24-25. This amount represents net proceeds distributed by the department in May or June of the current fiscal year and is required to be used for the budget year. Please contact your analyst for this number after April. And line C, this is the total assessed value, adds line A in B1. Line D, this is statistical information only. Provide full-time employees and full-time classroom teachers. And then the actuals for FY23, FY24, and the estimated for FY25. Line E, this is the enrollment. Provide total enrollment for the 3 years, FY23 through 25. Any questions on? Okay, and the next page 7, slide 7, this is Schedule B1 continued. This section is really important. This is that you're reporting the state education funding provided by the Nevada State of Education. This is where all those numbers go. The total funding from state education should match the funds from the People-Centered funding plan. If this doesn't match, if you're not using their numbers, please let us know why. You can type it on that page. Just let us know, because you might know stuff that we don't know. And so you might have a different pupil count. Just let us know why you're not using their numbers. And these numbers should match numbers in the Schedule AA, column 4, and the BB schedules. And as we go through the Schedule B forms, we will let you know where these numbers should match. Did you want to say something about Schedule AA modified, and this is the one that we would prefer you use, but it's up to you. For school districts budget schedule, AA modified is being offered as an alternative to existing Schedule AA. These optional schedules are designed to facilitate the accounting of different components, and property tax resources have been replaced with the state education funding. So if you've noticed on column 4, that's the state education funding, and where we have blue highlighted, that is highlighting for the English learners, the at-risk, the gifted and talented, special education, so that it has its own little place.
Again, that information is going to be compared. The budget analyst will be comparing that to the information in the school report, so Department of Education. So if you are using different numbers due to a lower or higher student increase, student count, please make that note so that we don't have to call and ask you, because we're just trying to make sure that you're using proper numbers, and you might be using better numbers than we have. So thank you.
Yes, exactly. Column 1 is, that's where the fund the different funds go. Then there's a place for opening fund balances, the non-property tax resources, everything that's not, that's non-property tax sources go there. Only the state education funding goes in column 4. The property tax resources is for the debt services for the department. So that's where that would go. And then your tax rate is column 6. And then on this one has a place for your actual transfers in. And this should agree with the total column 5 schedule AA1 modified. So this should be the same. And notes, debt service reflects consolidated obligations as developed on schedule CC. Obtain the total net all funds by subtracting interfund transfers from total all funds.
Again, the only funds that you receive from the Department of Taxation is that debt component of the tax rate. So the rest of it's going to the school education fund, and then the Department of Education is providing that to all the schools.
Okay, and then this one is the regular schedule AA. This one is similar to the modified one. The transfers are subtracted at the bottom and they do not have their own column. Both the schedule AA and the schedule AA modified must foot and cross foot. Any questions? Schedule AA1 modified, and this is for the expenditure side. And so like I said, we preferred this modified one. Column 1 is the program or the function. 2 is salaries and wages. 3 is the benefits. 4 is services, supplies, and other. And then there's a place for the transfers out in the contingencies and the ending fund balance. And there again, they should foot foot and cross foot. Schedule AA1. So this is where you see the contingency, and the contingency should only be used in the general fund, unless you can show why you have an emergency in your food fund. It's not necessary. So, and it just like the schedule A modify, the entire schedule must foot and cross foot. And these should AA1 and AA should match. They should have the exact same totals. And this is scheduled DB5. So the first column, and this is really important. The first column is the actual prior year ending June 30th, 2023, the one you just had the audit on. The amount here must agree with the independent audits. And that is really important. And then column 2 is the estimated current year, the year that we're in right now. And then column 3 is the tentative approved for June 30th, 2025. Totals will be brought forward to schedule AA from schedule AA and put here. Column 4 will be blank when you send the tentative in. And when you send the final approved, do not change the tentative budget numbers. They should stay the same.
Any changes will be reflected in that final column only.
Yeah. This schedule is required for the following funds: the general funds, special revenue funds, building and site funds, capital projects, any funds having characteristics and definitions of the fund group listed in this note. So the beginning fund balance in each column should record reservation of net proceeds, mineral tax received in the immediate prior year. And so the state education funding has been added under the revenue from state sources. So these funds must match the amounts on Schedule B1 and also on your schedules AA. All those numbers should match. And Schedule BB6, this one wraps up the revenue side of the budget. The beginning and ending fund balance must flow through the budget. An example is, so the ending fund balance for FY23 must be the beginning fund balance for FY24. And the ending fund balance of FY24 must be the beginning fund balance for FY25. And likewise, all of the total, all resources on the revenue side must match the total applications for each fund on the expense side. And we do check those. Any questions?
There is a question. Stephen Osborne has one.
Okay.
Yeah, on that last statement about the ending fund balance versus the beginning fund balance, is that only for the tentative budget?
No, that's for also for the final budget too. It needs to flow.
How about the amended final budget?
For
Because the amended final is audited, it's audited, it's a real number. And so the beginning balance of your amended final may be different than your ending balance of the previous.
Correct. So you're talking as far as compared to the audit.
Correct.
Yeah. If you can carry that audit balance, your ending fund balance on the audit at the bottom of the audit, have that be your beginning fund balance. That may be different than what your amended or your augmented budget is, but still carry that balance forward, because the reality is the audit is more updated than that amended balance that you currently are showing.
Well, I'm not talking about an augmented. I'm talking about the December amended.
Right, but again,
After
in December, your December beginning fund balance may have differed or may be different than your ending fund balance from the audit.
Correct.
Now that we know what that audited fund balance is, go ahead and put that as your beginning fund balance.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But for tentative and final, just make sure they're the same.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In Schedule BB7, this is the same. I cannot stress how important it is to have the independent audit numbers on the first column. And then again, the estimated current year, what we're right now, the tentative proof for the fiscal year. Totals will be brought forward to Schedule AA. Column 4 will be blank. And there again, when you send in your final approved budget after your public hearing, the totals will be brought forward to Schedule AA1. Do not change the numbers in the tentative column. If you change them to the same as the final budget, we will have you redo it. Do not change those numbers. Excuse me, Schedule BB8.
BB9, isn't it?
Yeah, no, BB8. Yeah, page 15, yeah. So all the following schedules are done the same, just different functions, like each schedule, and I think Schedule BB8 is the gifted and talented and the vocational and technical. Schedule BB9, other. And the Schedule BB9 is the other instructional programs and summer school. Sorry.
You need a page change.
I need a page change. And then
This was everyone's chance to ask lots of questions.
yeah. And Schedule BB10 is the adult education and community service program. So each and the Schedule BB11 is the curricular activities, athletics. Schedule BB12 is the undistributed expenditures, the student support, instruction staff support, general administration, and the central services. So each schedule is different. And schedule around 20. Like 20. Okay, and schedule BB13 has been revised for those local school districts that account for food service operations as a special revenue fund under function 3100. This one also has operating, maintenance, plant service, student transportation, other support, non-instructional service, and land acquisition. And so for those school districts who account for food service operations as an enterprise fund, Schedule J1 interfund transfers from general fund must be shown under revenue code 5,200, separately from interfund transfers on Schedule T. Schedule B14, that has the land improvement, architecture, engineering, building acquisition, site improvement, and building improvements. And in the Schedule BB14A, 22, this is wraps up the expense side of the budget and notes the contingency amount may not exceed 3% of the total expenditure shown on the total all expenditure line, less transfers. So total applications on Schedule BB14A must agree with the total all resources on Schedule BB6. And when completing Schedule B, only submit budget pages that have lines completed. If you have blank, leave those out. So if possible, please design the print programs to eliminate tab schedules that are not used. So not all the schools have all of that information. Any questions on any of the B schedules?
Man, we have a quiet crowd today. Again, don't hesitate. If you have questions later, you can always call your budget analyst as well.
I know.
Just means more questions for them to answer.
Exactly.
That's good.
That is good. That's our job. Schedule CC, and this is designed to accommodate all current debt service activity as enumerated on Schedule C1. Property tax entries are to be made under combined bonds and medium-term financing. The budgeted total of property tax must agree with the amount reported under debt service on Schedule AA. So that should agree. Principal and interest amount for FY 24-25 should agree with the appropriate totals on Schedule C1. So revenues received from voter-approved capital projects levy pay-as-you-go issues are to be deposited directly into the capital projects fund, legislative approved. Next is Schedule C1. This is where all of the debt is to be listed. There's the type of they're all up there. There's 11 different types that you can use. Please make sure you have the correct one. The term, enter the original term, number of years, original amount, the issue date, the final payment date, the interest rate, and the beginning outstanding balance for July 1st, 2024. And then the principal and the interest payments that you have on Schedule C1 should also match the schedules in the Schedule B's, the BB schedules. They should match.
I was going to say also in regard to the type of debt, if your school is going to be issuing debt, say in 24-25, you would go ahead and put it here, but then show it as proposed. You may not know the rate or exactly what the interest and term is provide the information to as much knowledge as you have on it. But that alerts us that you're going to be moving forward with a debt issuance in this coming year.
And so, yeah, so make sure that your interest and your principal payments are the same here as they are in actual budget. Schedule J1, and this is for the enterprise funds, and they work like the rest of them. The first column must agree with your annual independent audit. The second one is this year that we're right now where we're in the tentative budget, and then leave the final budget blank until after your board meeting. So government enterprise funds are operated at a profit or loss similar to comparable private sector enterprises. And most of the schools use this for their food. And any debt or lease payments made from the enterprise funds must be on Schedule C1 also. The J2, this one has to go along with the Schedule J1. It is your cash flow, and none of the amounts shown on this schedule are to be transferred to the schedules AA or AA1. The statement of cash flows, the Schedule 2 reports net cash provided are used in the following 4 categories: cash flow from operating activities, cash flow from non-capital finance activities, cash flow from capital and related financing activities, and cash flow from investing activities. Cash outflow should be shown in brackets. And this says Schedule I, and this one is used when you have payments to and from school districts in Nevada. So, and this is, yeah, for use for tuition, transportation, that kind of stuff. So,
Whether they're Nevada schools or non-Nevada schools.
non-Nevada schools, right. Schedule T, this is the transfer reconciliation. If you have any transfers from any of the B schedules, or this is where they go. Enter the name of the fund and please put the page number. That's important, very important that we have the page number. Enter the amount of transfer in, and the transfers in and the transfers out must match. And the total transfer amounts must agree with the totals of column 6 in Schedule AA for transfers in, and column 7 in Schedule AA1 for transfers out.
Again, I know Kelly emphasized to please put the page numbers where these transfers are reflected in the budget. If necessary, leave the page number blank until you print it, and then you can manually just handwrite in the page numbers on there. If you can't determine what the page number is until after you've actually printed it out, we're okay with that too. But the page number is important before you submit it.
Mm-hmm. Schedule 30. This is for the legislative, and it is for FY25. That's our next session. So that's why it's there. So be sure to fill that out.
If you anticipate any lobby expenditures during the upcoming legislature, you would go ahead and put them here. Even if you don't, or you expect that it's going to be under the 6,000 reporting requirement, you still have to provide this form even if it's 0.
And Form 31, this is existing contracts, and so the schedule summarizes existing contracts with persons or temporary employment services along with the proposed expenditures for each contracts for the next 2 fiscal years. So that's for FY 25 and FY 26.
Ellie, you have a question?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
my question is back one slide to the lobbying expenses.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so obviously we have a biennium, which is the first quarter of an odd numbered year. So which year or which cycles do you expect to see lobbying expenses on this form?
We expect to see the lobbying expenditures that are going to go towards FY 25 legislature, or the the legislature that's starting this next, in 20, it'd be 25, but in beginning of February.
Yeah, February.
So anyway, we'd expect to see that. And if there's expenditures that you maybe pay monthly, ultimately we would see a full year worth of expenditures
now
here.
wait, you said 25. We're working on 25 right now.
Right.
So
That's what I'm talking about. But from July, anything you're going to be spending for legislative or for lobbying expenditures from July 1, the full fiscal year, July 1 through June 30 of 25. So July 1, 24 through June 30 of 25.
and
Assuming those lobbyists chances are they would be paid somewhere between February and say May of 25. Those expenditures are going to be on this form.
okay, but they're paid. Okay, so I don't know which year I'm living in sometimes.
Oh, welcome to the club.
Right. And yeah, we're working on FY 24 right now, but they're going to do the budget for 24, 25. Well, 25, that's when legislature will be in session, and that's why you need to budget for it
okay,
in the
so
FY 24, 25.
Let's talk about calendar year, so not fiscal year. Calendar year, January of 25.
Okay.
So a year from today, let's say.
Yes.
We've got lobbyists up there. Those expenses should be reflected
On this page.
okay, but those expenses are a year from now, and a year from now we are doing FY 26.
Which has nothing to do with today's budget.
No.
So
Okay, so
you'll
what
want
you're
to be
saying
doing.
is it a look back or a complete estimate?
This is the complete, this is an estimate as to how much you're going to be spending in 24, 25.
Mhm.
So from July 1 till June 30 of 25. And you can't just say for a calendar year, because you do have 2 calendar years, but if you're going to be spending it, the expenditure, it's going to be spent before the end of June 30, 25, and it would be on this form for the 24, 25 year.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
so
the session is during the 2025. The session is like from February to July,
February to June.
February to June. So it is in 2025, whether it's the fiscal year or the calendar year. It's still in 25.
okay, so right now we're going to be working on the tentative budget for fiscal 25, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But we live in January of 24.
Correct.
So-
Which
so
is
it's
the
a-
year we don't have legislature.
So
Mhm.
it's a complete estimate of what will happen a year from now.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Correct. It might end up being, you might say, well, last year we spent 100,000 on it, so we're going to spend 100,000 on it next year. It also doesn't anticipate any special sessions, but that would be under the control of the governor, which none of us would know. So,
Okay,
we are
so it's
looking at-
never, so this page is never trued up, so to speak.
well, it is trued up after the legislature.
Yes.
Not trued up in this, in that respect where we compare what you estimated to what the actual is. But this estimate helps make sure that you've thought of those expenses, because those are going to be expenses you're going to endure during the 24-25 budget. At the end of legislature, we have 30 days to complete the actual, how much did you spend for the on lobbyist expenses in the 2025 legislature. At that time, we take those numbers. We never compare it to what you estimated. This is just to make sure that you're
okay,
keeping
so-
a spot, because
I
you do
understand.
have to.
I get it, Steve.
All right, so the amended final budget, which is in December, the fiscal year, December of 2024, okay,
Mhm.
would still have just complete estimates.
That's correct, unless you have updated it in your amended budget, because the schools do have an opportunity to update an amended budget. You can always amend this. If you know something in December that you didn't know while preparing this budget, that's when you could update it.
Okay,
Okay? Thank you
All right.
very much.
okay.
Let's go forward again.
Yeah. 30. Form 31, this is the existing contracts, and like I said, you need to have proposed for 2 years, FY25 and FY26.
Obviously, the budget analysts won't know anything other than what you put on this report, but the one item that we do look for, so you should always make sure that you include it, is your auditors. If you're going to enter in, even if that's you can show us the contract that was entered into in 23 that covers this budget period. If it's Eide Bailly or whoever your auditor is, your external auditors. But you would put that in there, because we are going to look for auditors on this vendor page. That is a contract we are aware of.
And Schedule 32 is these contracts is defined as a contract executed by or on behalf of a local government which authorizes a private entity to provide the public services which are substantially similar to the services provided by the public employees of the local government, and in lieu of the services otherwise authorized or required to be provided by the local government. So there's two different kinds of contracts.
In other words, if your school was going to outsource janitorial services, say, that would be something that you would, maybe you had, 10, however many employees previously, but if you're outsourcing that, you're going to pay a contract price. And how many people does that then eliminate those janitorial services that you previously had to budget for? That's the kind of information you would put here. Frequently, this form is blank, and that's okay too if you don't have any privatization contracts.
Is there any questions on any of this different schedules?
Again, this presentation will be made available on our website later today, once we make sure we clean it up.
And if you have any other questions, and not necessarily on the budget throughout the year, don't hesitate to call us and ask questions. That's what we're here for, is to help you in any way you need help, whether it's the budget, the audit. Can you think of anything else?
If you have any, if it seems to be a struggle to connect with your budget analyst, you're always welcome to give me a call as well. I can probably answer the question, or I can track them down easier. I know where they hide.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're always willing to help, and in any way that we can.
If there are no further questions, we'll go ahead and end this presentation.